Thanks very much. Hello, everyone, and thanks for inviting me. I'll speak a bit about the F-35s and build on what Okopi has said. I do really recommend the excellent report that NIST and Nukewatch published. It's a really brilliant deep dive into this. And actually, I was checking on it this morning to make sure I was abreast of all of the facts. So I think, as Okopi said, it's really important to try and understand what the F-35 decision is about. First of all, it doesn't get anything for the UK now. It's about a change in planes that they will have at some point in the future, at the earliest 2030. In parallel with that, we've got the decision to host US nuclear weapons at Lakenheath, which the timing is quite interesting. So those nuclear weapons, and again, Nukewatch have done some really excellent open source work demonstrating that those nuclear weapons arrived this summer. I think that's really conclusive, the stuff that they've managed to pull together, so really well done to them. But that decision, although the two seem to be paired together, and it's quite possible that these weapons are what the UK would nominally use in its nuclear sharing arrangements, that decision is much more longer term. The information that those weapons were coming to Lakenheath was uncovered several years prior. They've been doing a lot of... All right. They've been doing a lot of infrastructure work at Lakenheath building bunkers. So this isn't a Labour government decision. The first indicators of this happening were several years prior. So I think it's quite interesting to think. I'm quite interested to see, and we might not know for years, who decided this was going to happen, when, at what stage was the UK having planes part of the decision. I think that's really under-examined. But as Okopi's really brilliantly set out, the actual practicalities of these weapons being used on UK planes, there's several steps that actually mean that it's not a capability the UK has. It's not a very straightforward capability. It's one that would only be used in very particular circumstances, although Sophie's absolutely right to talk about the dangers of it and it being an aggressive step. But I think we need to understand that it's really about vibes, right? This decision is about a performative posture that the UK is taking towards Russia, towards NATO, towards Donald Trump, where they can say, "Hey, look, we're helping, we're a good partner," and I mean, that's obscene and absurd. I think we should probably think ourselves blessed that it's one of the cheaper bits of willy waving the UK government has done in this field. But it obviously creates a sense of danger of nuclear escalation, and that's really problematic. I want to talk, though, about some other stuff the UK is doing, and I think it's worth saying also the F-35 decision is not the most expensive nuclear decision that was associated with the Strategic Defence Review this year. They also announced, alongside it, an ambition to build 12 attack submarines in the generation following the one that's still being built. So this is the so-called SSN AUKUS, the AUKUS submarines that Australia will operate as well. They're just finishing the current Astute submarine build. And when they build the AUKUSes, they've announced they want to build 12. That almost certainly will require additional infrastructure at Barrow. So they have this huge place, the Devonshire Dock Hall, where they assemble the submarines. And a big bottleneck in the submarine building program is that they can only fit 3 submarines at a time and build 3 at a time. Given the timescales they're talking about and the numbers they're talking about, I think it's almost certain that they're planning to build a similar size of capacity again at Barrow in order to achieve this. So that's a huge amount of money that they're going to be spending on that. They also announced an ambition to resurrect a fuel cycle for submarines in the UK. So this would be creating the uranium fuel that's used for the submarines domestically. At the moment, we're importing it from the US. That will have a lot of infrastructure associated with it as well. We're not really doing enrichment in the UK at the moment. So there'll be probably, I mean, they haven't really fleshed out what that will look like, but there'll be some quite significant costs associated with that. And obviously, alongside this is, as Sophie mentioned, the work to upgrade the current weapon system, the Trident weapon system. So they are producing the Dreadnought submarines. These will start running off these quote-unquote conveyor belt at Barrow when the Astutes are done. But they've had a lot of issues with keeping to time and to budget on that project, as they do with everything. And that's causing a massive strain on the current submarine fleet, which has got some real reliability problems and maintenance problems. And I do genuinely worry that they are probably putting submariners at risk with putting submarines to sea, because they insist on having one at sea that's nuclear armed at all times. There is going to be new warheads. At the moment, I believe it's still more or less in the design phase, so they're not at the stage of producing it. But there is a lot of infrastructure work being planned at AWE. There's a big campus that's being built there or planned there. I think, have they done planning permission for that yet? I think. Yeah, have we seen it? Has that come out this year?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's due to come. I think maybe the coming spring. Yeah. So there's an awful lot going on alongside the F-35s. I think that's probably everything I wanted to cover. But really happy to field any questions.
Thanks. Thanks very much, David.